project begin.
That is my mindset. I operate on a level of excellence, and you guys need to wake up every single day, and you need to operate on a level of excellence and create your masterpiece.
I have a very special guest today on the Personal Perseverance Project. Jamie Fitzpatrick, growing up, was the captain to many sports teams and was a crew boss for the British Columbia Forest Service. Jamie earned a bachelor's degree in physical education and a master's degree in leadership and administration. Jamie then built and founded his first business chain, Bark and Fitz Pet Store, that grew to 23 locations across North America. Jamie and his wife Kim then built a multiple 8-figure business in global wellness, retail sales, being in the top of his industry of 400,000 distributors. Jamie had a near-death life event where he suffered a massive heart attack and was basically not alive for 9 minutes while his wife performed CPR on him to keep Jamie alive. Most important, Jamie is a husband and father to his 2 kids. You do not want to miss Jamie's story and the life lessons he is going to share. Let's dive right into today's interview with Jamie Fitzpatrick. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Personal Perseverance Project. I'm so excited about this next episode, and thank you guys so much for the messages and the feedback I've been getting in the last couple of interviews. It means a lot, but I'm really excited about our guest today. You heard his bio, Jamie Fitzpatrick, somebody that I got to know personally, both as a friend, as a super successful entrepreneur with him, his wife, podcast, so much to share. So I want to dive right into it. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on and welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you, sir. I remember the first time I met you. I knew who you were. I don't know if you knew who I was. It was in San Diego. It was at a leadership.
Oh, at the leadership conference.
We were working out next to each other.
Yeah, I remember. I do remember that. You were there. You were not with Kim, I don't think, when I met you the time.
I don't think
right?
So. No.
I remember meeting you then, and man, just watching your journey and getting to know you and watching you and your wife. It's amazing. So
been fun.
Good time. So Jamie, I'd like to dive into it. You know, people know your background already. They know your bio, everything you accomplished. And the big thing that I noticed right away is from your younger years until present day, whether it was when you were the captain of some of the sports teams growing up, what you did on that forest fire 3-man team. Like, you've always been a leader from your younger years until now. And leadership, sometimes people are born with it. They have innate skills that they have to develop, but sometimes it's not. They get put in positions of leadership and they grow into it. So for you, from younger years to now, I look at you and go, wow, Jamie is just a leader. He gets it. But have you always been that way, or is that something you grew into in your life?
Man, that's a tough one, right? Because I feel like you're right. Like even when I was playing, even when I was like 8 and 9 years old playing high level hockey and stuff, which is hard to grasp leadership when you're that age, I think, or maybe it's not. You and I are far more older now, but I think for me, so my father was a leader, and his role, he was a superintendent of schools. He coached me in a lot of things, so I'm sure I saw that leadership from him in those mentor roles, coaching roles. He was kind of the boss of the school system. So that, when your male role model in your life when you're younger is your father, and he's in those positions, I'm sure that had an impact on me and how I saw him operate and deal with people and his social skills and stuff. I think for me, because I had this sports background, and it's funny because I always joke, and I don't know if I ever joked with you about it, but when I do calls with people or our organizational calls and stuff like that, I do always say I had that little bit of an insecurity growing up as a kid about being book smart and intellectually smart, because my brother was really smart, and I had this insecurity. I didn't feel like I was that intelligent, or that I was going to be able to figure out my mortgage when I was an adult. Like all those little things that go through your mind when you're coming up through elementary and high school, I did have some insecurities about that. But ironically, when I played sports, so, when I played volleyball, I was the setter. When I played basketball, I was the point guard. When I played hockey, I was the center. When I played baseball, I was the shortstop. I was in all these positions in sports that you had to understand what was going on. I'm the setter. I needed to know where people were. Shortstop in baseball, I had to know what was going on. I was the infield captain, so point guard,
Yep.
Same thing. I'm calling. So I was always kind of put in those positions on the court or the ice or whatever I was playing, and I think I've got in hockey we call it puck sense. I've got
Yes.
every sport
Yes.
has their thing. I could always see the game very well and understood not just my
Mm.
position but what everyone was supposed to be doing. So while I had these intellectual insecurities, I guess I was had a lot of sports intelligence,
Mm.
and I was put in those roles really early on,
Right.
um, to be a captain of a lot of those teams and stuff like
Right.
that. So I think maybe a combination of
Right.
this is why sports are so important for people. I think and kids, you learn to deal with other people, obviously, and I think you can embrace some of those leadership roles as a kid, and then I naturally, just as you move through high school and then into college and stuff, um yeah, I always I was a teacher, and then I wanted to get into administration again, those
Mm.
leadership roles. So I think it's probably, I don't know if I'm giving you the right answer, but it's probably a combination of some mentors I had in my life, and
Yeah.
I think sports really guided me into a
Absolutely.
leadership
I
role.
mean, we see it with their kids. I see it with, my three daughters. My middle daughter is an ice hockey player. My wife always says
Yeah.
that's your son, playing at a high level, and I love it. And you see just the locker room and how it develops. And but to the point to that, Jamie, I think it's also important people should know is that you never stop growing, right? So you're a leader. Like I've seen all the things you've accomplished up until now, but you today still as a leader are investing in yourself to continually grow. And some people think I've achieved it, I'm there, and it's the pinnacle. It's not. It's always a growth journey.
It's I mean, I won't show you around this. This is actually my wife's office, but I kind of share it with her. But I mean, I'm not kidding. There's probably 200 personal development books. My actual laptop is on a stack of them. There are some back there. There's like, and it's not just that. And I've shared this with people, and this isn't a big flex. Um, we don't need to talk about income or money, anything like that. But like Kim and I, if I had to add up the amount we've spent on conferences, courses, our own mentors,
Mm,
everything that we've done to try to improve ourselves,
mm.
it's got to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh,
It has to be. And I think what some people don't understand, and I'm not being trying to be disrespectful to anyone, but there's kind of that CEO versus employee mindset. And I've been an employee before, but I think people, if you have to hire someone to help you get to the next level, or you want to take a course, or you want to go to a conference and you want to improve yourself, I think a lot of people look at that as an expense.
mm.
It's an expense.
Yep.
Oh, it's $3,000. That's
Right.
next. That's that money
Right.
block. Oh gosh, money going out. Scarce, 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 scarce.
Right.
For me, it's a multiplier.
Yes.
It's an income multiplier. So I've never, and I'm not saying don't spend $100,000 to go for a weekend course somewhere if you can't afford it and it's going to bankrupt. I'm
Right.
not talking about that, but there's a lot of opportunities for people out there, and you're not going to get them all right. And some courses may not serve you, and some of these things may not. But I would say for most of the stuff Kim and I have done, it's been incredibly rewarding. And the cool part is, even the ones that maybe weren't, we learned maybe more from them sometimes about what not to do and what we don't want to do in our business.
Exactly.
So it's like, I think that's the one thing that people get afraid of, is investing in themselves, because they're worried about the money. And I get that, and everyone's financial situation is different, but man, it is so necessary for growth and entrepreneurship. And we will continue. Like my wife's away right now. She went to Vegas.
Right.
It's expensive. She's going to this weekend and week with her mentor that we hired. But my mindset, I can't view it as an expense. It just
Yeah.
isn't for me,
You're
because
right.
she's gonna come back better and make X amount of that money through her own business. So yeah, I just think it's so essential. It's so essential.
And I think that I have two things to say that. Number one is I remember going to a conference early years of business days, and it was Danny Johnson, and she says,
Mm,
your level of personal growth is going to directly align with the bottom line of your bank account. And I was like, oof, I'm like,
yep.
that is so true. And I remember early on for the first 2 years in building my body business, I didn't do PD. Like I was, a newer, not a newer trooper, but I was like, I don't need that because I think most people think that's rah rah stuff. I don't need to invest in myself and grow and spend. And I remember my business plateaued, and for 2 years, and my mentor at the time, Robert Hudgens, he
Yeah.
said to me, and I said, Robert, like, what's going on? And he's like, what are you reading? And I'm like, I'm not. He goes, that's your problem, because you don't know what you don't know. And I know I just mentioned to you before, like I paid just for 2 quick calls with somebody like $5,000. I have no problem sharing that because I think people need to know. And again, like you said, if you don't have it, you don't have it.
Yeah.
But you have to invest in yourself. It's super important, and it is an investment. But man, oh man,
It's
that is so important.
it's crazy to see, like, you and I are workout guys. It's crazy to see, men in really good shape who really care about their fitness. They'll go to the gym and hammer out an hour workout, and it's brutal and they're
Right,
sweating and
right.
it's hard, but they can't pick up a book for 15 minutes a
I
day. Like it's the easiest thing for people to not
I
do,
know.
right?
I know. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you always got to be reading. And the book I'm reading right now, I don't know what you're reading right now. I'm reading Deion Sanders' book, Elevate and
Oh,
Dominate. It is great. I'm like sending it to my mother, my brother. I'm like, you guys got to read this. She's like getting on Audible because it's a great book, but it's just, and you see the way he thinks and the way he operates, but that's a great recommendation. But you always have to be reading and growing. And you took one of the questions I was going to ask you is the importance of personal development. So thank you
yeah.
for the motivation. But Jamie, what keeps you motivated now, day in and day out? Because you're always growing. You and Kim
Mm,
are always growing. Business, your wheels are always turning. Like, what is your motivation day to day?
man, I always have said this out loud. I'm like, motivation is bullshit. But
Yeah.
but we all need to be motivated. The problem with motivation is it's temporary, typically, right? And if you
Mm,
don't have some internal clock, internal desire, internal manifestation, internal well, let me put it this way. They're
discipline.
discipline, and I always call it like most people are smart enough to do whatever they want. Most people. Some are. Most people.
Right.
Most people do have the work ethic in them to do certain things. Some things they don't. So I don't think everyone's capable of everything, but I think there's a lot of really talented people who probably don't live out to their potential, whatever that means to them or you or their happiness and all that stuff. Um, I think that most people lack a standard.
Mm,
And
yeah.
typically it's got to be a standard of excellence in everything you do. We're
Right.
not perfect. We're human beings living a human experience,
Right.
highly faulted. I've talked to you a little bit. We all go through stuff. We all have
Yep.
vices. I certainly do. Um, but I think any success I've had, quote unquote, whether it's in my marriage or my relationships or as a business owner, as a leader, um, I try to play up here
Yeah.
as much as possible. And not only because it makes me prideful, and I think that is one of the most important things personally is to have pride in what you're doing, and that's keeping promises to yourself and all those
Mm,
things, right?
yeah.
Um, and the promises and the pride thing for me, it's like if I have those things and I'm doing things like taking care of myself and making more better decisions than worse ones over time, um, if I want to have an excellent life, if I want to have an income that, really gives me and my family opportunities and my kids more than anything opportunities, because we all know kids and
Right.
sports and activities, how expensive it is, and it's just going up.
Yeah.
Um, my son's football helmet was $1,000. I'm like, how did I not know a football helmet was $1,000?
Oh,
Like, it's just
I
crazy.
know.
Anyway, so me intellectually understanding that my level of excellence, my
Right.
standard in everything I do, it
Mm,
has to be up here.
yeah. Yeah.
Plus, I have a partner who lives that way too, and I'm
Right.
trying to keep up with her. So literally,
I
like
know.
Kim,
Yep.
and so it's in our relationship too. I know, and I'm not a relationship expert. I'm not a psychotherapist. I don't give marriage advice, but I'm about to. But like I would argue that most people, and I think some people just aren't meant to be together, but I would argue that typically, when there's a gap in that relationship, a lot of times one person's doing the work and another person isn't.
Mm,
And it can be
growing
at different
apart.
avenues of their life. Yeah, whether it's wellness or business or their
Right.
job or parenting, how they deal with their kids. One person is elevating their game and one person isn't. And that's a tough bridge, right? To get
Yeah.
through to keep that relationship. So I
Yes.
think I'll just speak for Kim and I, and I'm not just blowing smoke, like our relationship is better than it's ever been because we're both trying to elevate our personal game and
Right.
make sure we're good.
Right.
Not so much that our relationship is good because that happens naturally if we're both operating up here,
Yeah. Yeah.
living with integrity and truth and speaking our truth to each other and seeing each other improving physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all those things that we're both individually doing.
Mm.
That's what's
Right.
that's what's making things so incredible right now between us. Does that make
Right.
sense? Maybe
No,
that wasn't
it
your
does. It
question,
does.
but
No, it does, because there's that saying, success leaves clues. And I think until you hear, like, you're sharing something, you've been through it, and you're saying how much better life can be improved when you invest in yourself. And it's the same thing. I remember early on when marriages struggle, and like at times it's if one's growing and one's not, like you said, that's a tough bridge. I just sent a picture of a quote to Kristen from actually the Deion Sanders book, where he talks about there's nothing more powerful than two people working together at the same cause. And I sent it to her because it's just our reminder every day to grow in all areas, relationship, our faith, business, mindset, because life always gets harder. And it's just, yeah, it's just so powerful. And the only time I think maybe it's not motivation. I know I love when Tony Robbins, I think he said it's when your shoulds become your musts. So like when you have your kids that rely on you, and I want to give them a life that becomes above and beyond, it's that why and driving force. Like you have no choice, and then when you achieve a higher level, you see how much better it is and how much better it feels, and that could be in all areas. Like I'm trying to do, I'm adding extra runs in during the week, just doubling up. Why? Because it's for my mental well-being. I feel good. I'm more creative. I'm better as a husband, right? I just think
oh,
it's constant. It's
I'm
so much,
I'm
so much.
trying I'm trying to have those conversations with our kids who are my son's 15 now, Tess is 12, so they're getting it, right?
Yep,
They're
yep,
starting to understand some stuff. And I try to explain to them that, like, it's not just your mom and I are a team for sure, and I think we
right.
portray that in front of them in every way, but like the us four are a team. like
Yeah,
like like for us to expand and grow and be happy, this house and how we all interact with each other, we're a
yeah,
team. Like
right,
you got to protect your goalie, like, at
right,
all costs, right? Like you're like that, and so they both play sports, so they both kind of get that analogy.
right,
It's like, no, we're a team, we're a
right,
unit, we have to
right.
be operating together. And so um because our two kids, son and daughter, they're like that
Ah,
sometimes, and that's, family members do that and teams do that, and I get it, but it's like, how do you come out the other side of that, and how do you solve those problems and stuff? So yeah. And there's another, I'm probably going to butcher it, but, and I can't remember who said it, but it's like, I think they're called Belgian horses, right? And there's a certain type, and individually they can pull like 800 pounds. One
mm.
Belgian horse can pull 800, but if you put them together to pull something, they can
Oh,
pull like
forget it.
3,000, right? So it's like, I think, and you and I in our past business, we saw this all the time. It's like, I
Right,
never understood, and I'm not picking on men because I am one and you are one, and we're guys, and we like
right.
sports and beer and we swear, and we're um, but like, I never understood just the lack of support from a spouse sometimes for another spouse trying to run a business or start something new,
It's,
or even work on themselves.
mm,
And listen, there's insecurity and jealousy, and we won't get into that part of
yes,
people's persona. But it's like, is that a defense mechanism? Do you not feel good about what you're doing, so you don't want the other person to grow beyond you? Which
right.
might be it too. It just always, I always had a trouble with that because, gosh, like aren't we all just trying to push in the same direction?
Exactly. It's
You know,
totally,
you
totally.
know.
You're making me think of two things. It's we are a team as a family. And a story I always share is I had no idea. So my one daughter, well, out of the three daughters, I had no idea that when my daughter Sadie started playing ice hockey and asked for 2 years, and we said no, and we kept saying no, we kept saying no, and how much she's developed in the work ethic and the perseverance. And all my daughters, I like to share when I speak, and I'm saying, you think that when you give up or you quit on something, that it's just affecting you, but you don't realize that your kids are watching everything that you are doing. And you think it's about what you say, but it's not. It's how you show up and what they do. And even as they joke, like even now at times, if our kids are going through a rough patch, I'll be in the kitchen, Jamie, and I'd be like, no, you guys, listen, you're facing some adversity. It's okay. And they're like, Dad, enough. I don't need some motivation pep talk. I constantly get that, but like I'll be away and my wife, Kristen, will say like, they're getting it or they're saying things and they may make fun of us and Dad, we don't need your motivational, but that's the reality. We are a team and they are the most important people that we should try to directly impact. And when they watch Mom and Dad do it, and they see through what they said and they push through tough times, which we all do, that's the impact. That's the legacy. It's the kids and your generations and grandkids. So
Yeah.
powerful.
It,
That is
it,
so
it, what really got me, again, I can't remember who said it. What really got me is like, maybe it was Cody Jefferson. I can't remember. But it's like, as your kids are growing up, one day as they get old enough, they're gonna figure out who you are.
right.
Right?
Yes.
And my son is 15. He's like, and you say with you see, they're figuring out who you are. So
Right.
who are you?
Right.
Who are you?
Yeah.
What's your integrity level? Can they
Mm,
trust you?
mm,
Are you being a good spouse to their mom or their dad?
right.
They're smart. They get it. They're gonna
Totally.
figure out who you are. That 2 year
Totally.
old you have right now, the 2 year old you have,
Yeah.
one day they're gonna know who you are.
Absolutely.
So
Totally.
govern accordingly. Like it
Yep.
matters. It's important.
So we can spend a whole hour just talking
I
about your
know.
kids and your impact but it just remember for all the parents out there, your kids aren't doing what you say. I mean, they are, but they're really watching what you do and how you show up in life is going to make a difference. And that should be a why within itself.
and
So,
and just to interrupt you, sorry,
yeah,
David, and
go.
also I certainly don't want to come across as like, you know a know-it-all or we're
No.
perfect parents, because everyone knows that's just impossible. And I think it's also important. And we had this sit down with my son last year, who, and I can share this openly, who, I've dealt with different things in my life, but we'll talk about the event that I
Yeah.
had.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's already almost been 5 years ago, but
Wow.
I think my son, for a while, he had some trauma from that, because he was, at the time, he would have been 9 or 10 when that happened. So there's some trauma there for
Oh,
him,
yeah.
right? And I could tell he was kind of going through some stuff. Always a good kid, nice kid. Um, I think he, in some ways, I don't know how this is going to come across. It might sound egotistical. He had me on this pedestal, and maybe a lot of us have our fathers on a pedestal. Um, but I think he knew I was, quote unquote, successful in certain things in my life, right? And
Right.
coming from the business we came from, he knew that people knew who I was,
Right.
right? And he would see us interact and stuff like that. And I think, in a way, he felt pressure from that he had to be something, or a certain someone. And
Mm,
and I actually, Kim and I sat him down last year one day, and actually shared with him a struggle I was having in my life.
right.
And something clicked in him. It was interesting.
Mm,
And so I wanted to bring that up, because I think, as important it is, as we're trying to be great humans, never perfect, because that's
right.
impossible, but great humans and great parents. um I think I always say we're human beings living a human experience, and
Mm,
we're gonna mess up, and we're gonna do some stupid stuff, and we're gonna make mistakes as parents, because first time for everyone, right? And
absolutely.
when we shared that with him, I could see a click for him to realize, like, oh, okay, that takes the pressure off a little bit. Like, there's,
Yes.
and we all as humans have to find grace in our faults. Um,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. I think our kids do put us on a pedestal and they think it always goes well. And we've
mhm,
had conversations too. Like I told you in the month of January, I had a rough month with some things going on. And I shared that with one of my daughters that was going through rough times at school. I'm saying, listen, it's how we're going to respond. We get knocked down. I
yep,
struggle too. And I shared that. She's like, really, Dad, that happened to you? And I'm like, yes. And she's feeling bad. I'm like, it's not to feel bad. I want to let you know, like, we all struggle. It's okay that you're struggling. You're not perfect. And to your point, it relieves a little bit of the pressure, because they see us in the spotlight at times,
yeah. I want them to try. That's all I want them to do, is be able to try new things, and see us
Absolutely.
fail, see us succeed. But just fear will get the best of us if we let it. So
Absolutely. They are the most important thing to us. So, Jamie, you are a teacher, you got your master's, And eventually there came a time where you decided, like, I'm going to pursue this entrepreneur thing, which I like to say is you got to be willing to bet on yourself. It's scary. So if
Yeah.
you remember, like, take me back to, like, you're there, you're a teacher. When did you decide to take that leap of faith? You know, Kristen was a teacher
Oh,
and she did the
yeah.
same thing when she went full time. But that's a mindset that you have to have, because most people won't do that. Most people, there's a lot of miserable people out there doing jobs they don't like and are not happy. And, you know, but there's those like yourself that take that leap of faith. Like, do you remember that transition and what it took to take that leap?
Yeah, I'll try not to make the story too long, but like because it's a long story, but like we, my parents were both teachers. My brother was a teacher. I was a teacher. I taught high school for 7 years. Um, I went and got my master's because I thought I'm going to get into admin. You need your master's. I'm probably going to
Right.
turn out to be a superintendent, hopefully at someday. I
Right.
was thinking, good pay, pension. It's a good life. My parents gave me a good life.
Right.
Nothing. We were middle class, but it was beautiful.
And that is a great life. There's
And that is a
many.
great
Yeah.
life. Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm so pro teacher.
Yeah.
But my sister got into entrepreneurship and she moved because I grew up in the West Coast, British Columbia, Canada. Um, and my sister had moved out to Ontario, which I'll give you a geography lesson, which is just kind of above northern New York for everybody. Um, Michigan, northern New York. It's a big province. Anyway,
Yes. Yes.
and she had a successful retail store, and my dad had done a few little entrepreneurial things, and even in his business as a superintendent, and this is going back 30, almost 40 years ago, when the internet was just coming out,
Mm.
just and online learning wasn't, it's normal now. So he actually brought online learning to his school district, and he was bringing in students from other districts because the
Wow.
government would give you money for every student that came in your district. So
Ah.
he was like the first one in Canada to be bringing in.
Ah.
He called it e-busing.
E-bus.
Now the other superintendents didn't like that because he was stealing students from people. But like think the first time you could take your high school education online. That was 30 years
Wow.
ago, maybe 40. I don't know, a long time ago. So
Wow.
he did that. So he had some of those, ideas. And I just think my attitude. So when I finished my master's degree, I quit teaching about 6 months after that.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And I always thought, listen, I can always go back and teach. So I knew I had that education in my back pocket if I needed it. So
Right.
it wasn't, I think, as fearful as it sounds, although I was losing my pension, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, seeing my sister have some success with it, and I was single and in the small town in BC, and we would come out to Ontario in the summer because my parents actually moved out here. And I think I've just always had an attitude. Um, I just want to experience things, and I just thought, I couldn't see myself teaching for 40 years. I think it's a great occupation for people, not knocking it. I
Right.
just wanted to try something new. I
Right.
just wanted to try something new. And so on a whim, um, my brother and I packed up, sold our houses in BC on a whim. We got in the car. We got in a car accident 2 minutes into the trip.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
we fixed the car. We were fine, and we drove out to Ontario. And within a year, again, this is 2003, so there were no dog stores or dog boutiques or whatever people call them nowadays. It was just like your pet stores.
Right.
And we decided to just open up a 2,000 square foot retail store for people with dogs. And it kind of looked like Banana Republic meets Lululemon meets like Pottery Barn meets Whole Foods. Like it was a vibe.
Right.
Like you
Yeah.
walked in and it was like, what is this place? You just had never seen anything like it. We color blocked leashes and we had very expensive stuff. But we opened the store in the highest per capita income place in Canada in Oakville, Ontario. And we kind of knew what we were doing. Even though it was the first time we'd both done retail.
Yeah.
So I spent actually a year. I took some of my savings and I spent a year researching the pet industry. And my brother found a little teaching job out here, and we found a place to rent on the main street there. And we just opened, and
Wow.
we yeah, it was
You just
like
went for it.
we just
Now,
went for it. And
Was your wife Kim in the picture now? Are you single? No, like this started?
I, Kim used to run by our first store.
Ah, I like that.
And so she used to run by the store. I was like, oh, that's a pretty girl running by the store every morning. So I would go out and sweep on purpose a little bit more,
I
but we never
didn't know
talked.
that.
Yeah, we never talked. And then she also was a waitress at the hockey rink where I would play men's league hockey.
Ah,
And then we still really didn't talk. And then I saw her at a bar one night. I'd
and
broken my
then,
nose playing hockey, and I didn't play that night. And she was off, and we saw at the bar, and that was it. So,
oh,
but yeah,
wow.
but that from an entrepreneurial standpoint, and I think maybe the lesson here is like, we borrowed money from my parents.
Yep.
It was all paid back, but it was. I think entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. I
Hmm.
think you do have to have a degree of courage slash craziness slash I'm here to experience life and everything that comes with this decision to try something different. And that's going to
Yeah.
be good, bad, failure, lose money, make money, meet amazing people, learn some lessons you don't want to like
Right.
you got to be open to stuff if you're going to dive into that industry and whatever.
Yeah.
Now, I think nowadays with online, there's so many cool ways to earn an income and not have to put out that much money in capital.
Mm,
I think there's a lot of ways to do that now,
yes.
so maybe it's less risky. But yeah, to take $250,000 and throw it in a pet store is like sounds crazy, and it was a little bit crazy, but God, like that experience. I mean, holy, I learned so much from that.
Unbelievable.
Just,
But
eh,
you go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but for some people, for the context, like, all right, so entrepreneurship maybe not be for them, but what you could take from this is there's times in your life, take a leap of faith for that promotion. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Maybe put in the extra hours at work because you feel you could get promoted at work, or maybe get that master's degree to make yourself, more available for other areas. So I think it's that this could be applied that sometimes you take the leap of faith and grow your wings on the way down, right? So for you, you went
oh,
entrepreneur, but there's people that just take a leap of faith and don't accept your life every day for what it is and lead yourself to where you want to go because everybody has dreams and goals.
yeah. And it's that old saying, life's not happening to you, it's happening
Happen-
for you. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
it's like even, you know, we open the store, people love it. It's a good
Mm.
vibe. Sales are great. A year after we open, people come in and they're like, is this an American franchise? Because it had that feel to it, right? And we're like, no, it's just our store. And they wanted to franchise it. So I turned into a franchise guy. I've never franchised before. I'm looking at legal
Yeah.
documents and like, you know,
Mm.
and next thing you know, we've got 23 locations. We had one in New Jersey actually. The rest were across Canada. And then it actually went sideways. Business partner, and it just, legal
Yeah.
stuff, and it went sideways. And then, but the crazy part is, as great of a time as that was, and then as hard of a time as that was, it actually brought me to my next business, which you and I did together,
Right.
and
Right.
and so
Right.
so and that turned out to be this blessing the last 9 years for
Right.
our family. So it's like you can't worry so much, and I would argue that the tough times I went through with our franchise and stuff, man, I learned more from that than anything.
Absolutely.
Just so my advice is like, you can't be so afraid of things, and
Mm.
and I'm not telling people to throw everything out the window and just spend all their money on a new opportunity. I'm not saying that either. I think you need to do your research and stuff like that. But I'm here to live this life, man. I always have had that attitude, even before what we'll probably talk about next. But like
Mm.
I'm here for it all, the good, the
Yeah.
bad, the experience, and I I said to Kim, like I'm 51. I'm 51, and and
You look good, brother.
well, thank you. So do you. I'm gonna knock on wood, but like I've said to her, man, if anything happens, I've lived the coolest life. I
Yeah.
really feel that way, and I'm
Yeah.
and you and I can talk about gratitude forever and the practice
Yeah.
of gratitude, and
Yeah.
but and that's a big part of it too. But yeah, it's I think life is meant to be lived and have different experiences.
I love it. Which will take us into the next point. So,
Yeah,
Jamie, I can't believe it's been 5 years.
crazy,
I
right?
won't forget, crazy for me, where I was, in my family room, on my phone, on social media, and seeing your wife Kim post that I need prayers right now, prayers for Jamie, please everybody pray. And I'm like, what WTF? I call
Yeah.
Kristen in the kitchen. Kristen, something's going on. And like it spread quickly. And
Yeah.
you went through, I'm not going to take it away. So Jamie, why don't you tell us what happened? It was eye-opening for everybody and for you and your family, and share that story.
Yeah. It's, again, I can make it a 1 minute story or a 3 hour story, but, I've been having your classic symptoms of a heart attack. Um, Numbness in the fingers. And I tell people this because we have a lot of people listening, and and
Yeah.
and
Yeah, for
and
sure.
and I get questions every week. People will, like, knowing what happened to me, they're like, "Hey, did you have this symptom?" And I'm like, "Are you having these symptoms?" Especially men, right? I'm like, "Don't be stubborn. Just
Get it
go get
checked.
it checked out." Just because a lot of people don't. It's crazy how many people have messaged me going, "I'm getting this feeling." I'm like, so I'm not a doctor. I've had experience and can tell you to go to the doctor. Is that what you want me to tell you to do?
Yeah.
You know, is it go to the doctor? I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not a cardiovascular surgeon, but I've had
Right.
I've had it happen to me. But that's my advice. It's just be better safe than sorry. Anyway, so I've been getting chest pain more like I was, and it wasn't when I was exercising. It was just this odd, like, and again, I don't want to freak people out here, but I'm just gonna share my truth. Is that I went and got tested for everything because it was about a month before this happened, maybe even a month and a half, 6 weeks out. I was getting these classic symptoms. Went to the doctor, went to the cardiologist. I'm not blaming anyone because they literally gave me every test you could give me, and I got cleared.
Hmm.
Months later, I can't remember, 6 weeks later, um, October 20, I always get this messed up, 27th or 29th. Anyway, I think it was 27th. And October 27th, 2019, Kim was actually sitting right here on a call. It was a Sunday. It's the only reason I'm alive, because it was a Sunday because our kids were home.
Mm.
Kim was down here on a call on a Sunday morning, doing a Zoom call with her team.
Right.
And my daughter, Tessa, who was 7 at the time,
Wow.
I think I have that right, 7 or 8, and 8, sorry, she was 8. And she'd asked me to go get her something. And I never came back. And she came looking for me. And again, normal weekdays, she'd have been at school. I'd have
Yeah.
been,
Right.
you know, and she came and found me, and she we asked her after, right? After everything's good and clearly I'm okay from all this. I asked her after, I said, "So when you found me, how long did you wait to go get mom?" Because the it was a widowmaker, 80% blockage. Like that's the one that you don't, I've got a tattoo on my arm, 6, because the percentages are like when you're at home and you have this type of cardiac arrest, it's like a 6% chance of survival, 1% chance
Unbelievable.
of no brain damage. My joke is the jury's still out on that one, but
Yeah.
like it's just, it's a devastating thing to happen at home because no one's typically around people.
Right.
She found me and I asked Tess, I said, "How long did you wait before you went and got mom?" And at first she's like, "I think it was a minute, maybe longer, but it couldn't have been that long because you don't, and I'm not you
And
have
where
more,
were you, Jamie? Where did she find you?
just upstairs in the living room. And
Okay.
I was sweeping for some reason because I had a broom in my hand when she found me face first.
Okay.
And yeah, I was not a heart attack, full cardiac arrest. Like I was vital signs absent. I was gone. And she went, got Kim. Kim ran upstairs. Kim's a trooper. She's she flipped me over like a canoe, and she's had CPR training from her work in gerontology with elderly people.
Wow.
And for 9-10 minutes she did CPR on me. And that's, I mean,
Unbelievable.
I've told people when I'm talking to people, I'm like, if you just sit with a phone or a stopwatch and sit in silence for 10 minutes,
It's eternity.
it's eternity. And to have to do that to your spouse for 9 or 10 minutes, and I'm not coming around. Like
Right.
I'm dying. I'm going through everything that happens to your body when you die, and she's trying to do CPR on me. Tessa's outside, ran and got the neighbor Dan, one of my buddies. He came over and eventually held my head while Kim was trying to get me back. Anyway, 9-minute mark. My buddy now, Josh, firefighter, um, he came in and I don't know, they use a little portable paddle. You would know more
Yeah,
than I do. They're
yeah.
little
The
portable guys.
paddles. Yep.
And they got me back in my living room after 8, 9, 10 minutes, whatever it was. Got me somewhat stable. And within an hour and a half, I had a stent in my heart and I was in the hospital. Um, and so yeah, so the crazy part is, like, my wife has PTSD from it. My
Mm,
daughter does. My son probably a little bit, but he wasn't around. It was my daughter who found me and was,
right.
you know, um, I don't remember anything. Like, I don't remember the days before. They had to put me in a coma in the hospital because I was overheating, and I think that's common. I'm not sure,
Right.
but I don't remember the 5 days after. Like, there's a week period, there's a week long period. I have no. So a
Wow.
lot of times, like, I literally, it's weird to say, but I don't have that much trauma from it, other than me actually understanding that I died, and
Right.
and you
And what your
know
kids went through in family.
and that's the thing for me, is what my daughter went through. And I've always, and she's a really confident kid. I think probably because so many people told her, you saved your dad's life, and
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
firecracker. She's like Kim, right? Like, she's a confident little girl. So she's good there. But that was has always been my biggest worry. And Kim too. It's like she's a she's a trooper, man, and she
Oh,
just kept going, and that's where my worry was. But I don't remember. I don't really have that much trauma from it, in a sense, although I'm sure there's some psychological things that I'm still
yeah.
working through. I'm going to therapy. It's a crazy thing to happen to you. It's really
Yeah, no,
wild.
absolutely. And I could tell you, Jamie, I've done CPR a lot when I was a trooper, and 99% of the time, the person never made it. I had one
Wow.
person that came back that so many times. Like, and my daughter is taking lifeguarding right now, and she's doing CPR. And she's like, Dad, have you ever done CPR? Has it worked? And I said, I've done it many, 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 many times. The cracking of the ribs, the sounds,
Oh.
the color of the person. I've been there. And to your point with Kim, 9 minutes, like it is exhausting doing that and the breathing. And you normally don't make it through, but her quick thinking at least kept the circulation going and kept you alive. And it's just unbelievable. But Jamie, now that you're like, what did that do on your outlook at life? Like, what did that do for how you show up every day now, knowing,
Mm.
like, I say life doesn't always fire a warning shot, is something I like to say. So for you now, that happening must change the way you see and approach life each day.
Yeah, and I don't want to give a cliche or a canned answer. I really
Yeah.
don't want to give you that. But I want to be really truthful about it. Because I've talked to now other, we call them NDEs, or near death experiences, and stuff like that. And I've talked to other people through the last 5 years who've had stuff like this happen, and lots of conversations, and sure, all the things, right? I was grateful before. I've always had a good outlook on life. Is it more now? Sure, yeah. I think for me, and maybe it's because, I've now turned 50, um, 51, and I've had this experience of the cardiac arrest. I think more than anything, I've got this very hyper focused um, awareness of time.
Mm,
And I don't think I can explain it properly to people, because it's what I feel, and it's hard to explain what we all individually feel about certain things. Um, but I just have this. I just can't waste
mm,
minutes, time, seconds. I want to watch my kids do shit. I want to,
yeah.
you know, it's like, I actually, I don't even know if this is healthy or not. It's like, I have trouble sitting and watching a TV show or a movie because I feel like I should be doing something more productive, you
Mm,
know? And and
I
and
feel
and
that.
I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's like, if I'm sitting around not doing anything, I'll go for a walk, because I know a walk is great for my heart and it's going to continue to do those things for me, or I'll go to the gym, or I'll pick up a book. But it's why, and I have a good partner for that, because she wants to be doing stuff too, whether it's
Right.
business or anything like that. So she gets it, and
Yeah.
and we're like, you know we're best friends, and I'm not, again, not to sound cliche that we have this perfect marriage, because we don't, because no one does. But like, we have to tell each other, hey, Kim, let's sit down, let's have this 15-minute coffee in the morning, because we
Yeah.
both want to go do shit. We're just like,
Right.
yeah, we got this and this and that. And we're like, and then we really enjoy that time with the coffee in the morning. Like, we
Yeah.
make a point of it. Let's just
Right.
sit, look at each other,
And
you
talk.
know, have a coffee and talk about our day and us and what's going on. But there's this urgency for me to have experiences. And last week I had this trip planned with some of my best friends from BC. I'm a big Vancouver Canucks fan, and I haven't seen them play. And I had this trip planned before my heart attack, cardiac arrest, that I was going to go see them. Right before that, we had to cancel it. So 2.5 weeks ago, I flew back to BC and just spent
Oh,
4 or 5 days with my buddies, and it was
oh,
just
that's
like,
great.
yeah. And I know everyone does that, and that's not maybe special for people, but man, it's like, you really want to taste your food. You
And
really want to
appreciate life.
appreciate and drink everything, and just drink it all
Mm.
in, and like hold on to experiences. I think for me, that's the biggest change. Is I'm seeing different colors in my universe that I never
Yeah.
maybe saw before.
Right. And you know what? Kim probably the same, because she witnessed it, the same event, and also realized how fragile life is. And you guys with your relationship and having that time to sit down. And you made me laugh, because just before we got on this podcast, I said to Kristen this morning, she was running out to do something and we've been busy. I'm like, can I get 15 minutes with you later? She's like, what do you mean? I go, we need 15 minutes. She goes, we need to talk. There's a lot
Yeah,
going on right now. Right.
isn't that funny?
Because you need you need that. I go, no kids, no that, like, so we have that scheduled this afternoon, and it's important to have that time to just talk to your
Totally.
spouse. So that is great. So Jamie, thank you for sharing, and blessed and grateful that you're here. And my goodness, that was scary for so many, but yet a lot of people supporting and praying for you and
That was
behind you.
crazy.
And it was absolutely mind blowing.
Is
So
is is
what?
isn't it? Sorry, I'm going to cut you off again. Isn't it
Yeah.
crazy that we there was so much support in our community, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you and I were
Yep.
both a part of, and it made me appreciate that community even more, obviously.
Yes.
Um, but isn't it funny how we often wait to tell people how we feel when they're gone or about to exit this realm?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how we wait till
Yeah.
then?
Yeah.
And
That's a
and it's
really,
like we need to, because I went back after I recovered and everything. I went back and looked at the Facebook, some of the Facebook pages, right? And to see the comments,
yeah,
it was like, holy, like it makes you
I
feel
know.
supported and good, and like, but
I
like
know.
everyone should have that experience before something
Yes.
bad happens,
Right.
and I'm just going to share this with you. I made a point to I'll try not to get emotional. We were at our family sort of cabin cottage, and my family, my brothers, sisters, mom, dad, we Kim and I tell our kids we love them every day. We're big I love you people. But my family was never like that. Even though we all get along incredibly well, great family,
Right.
we just
Right.
weren't big I love you people.
Right.
And I one night, a couple glasses of wine in, and this is about a year after that, I sat them all down at about midnight, all of them out around a table. And there were so many tears. And I went but through each one of them and told them why I loved them and how much I love them and why and
Oh,
what they've meant to me my whole life. And I just went, what? And then some people tried to talk. I was like, nope, I'm getting this out first. And I'm just
oh,
crying. And
oh
I
man, it's
sat,
giving me chills.
yeah. And I spent about, 3 to 5 minutes on each person. And I just went through all of them about what they meant to me and how I appreciate them. And I just,
Wow.
that it's not easy to do. It's not
Mm.
easy to do, because you really have to get vulnerable and open up, especially as a man. But God, I know it was appreciated.
Oh man, that gives me chills thinking about that. Yeah,
Mm,
people don't do that. People, we hold back and put up these blockers to share how we really feel about people.
yeah.
And that's wow, that's a powerful statement. Jamie, day in and day out, do you have a structured routine for just that you're intentional with? I know you were walking a lot, you working out, reading, like for people that maybe just kind of, which is most people, I feel like most people wake up, they just go through the motions of life. We're in complete reactive mode, and whatever happens, happens. But I believe people that are succeeding in all areas of their life, they're intentional with their time, right? Like you said, time is just so important. So what about you? Like, day in and day out, do you have routines or things in place that you do to keep yourself always growing, always improving?
Yeah, I'm Kim's much more of a structured morning person with her activities that she does, but I
Mm,
tend to do the same things too. Um, uh, I always write down what I'm grateful for. I
love
always
it.
write that down. I don't spend a
Love it.
lot of time, quote unquote, journaling. I have
Right.
in periods of my life done that,
Yeah.
but I don't do it regularly. But I definitely write down what I'm grateful for. I try to do that before bed too. Um, it's always water in the morning for me. Um, Going back to the team aspect with Kim and I, and for us, it doesn't matter what job has to get done in the house, kids, business, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's getting done by one of us and we're all happy and aligned, that's what matters. Again, that's back to that team aspect. So I know Kim's morning routine is really important for her before she
Mm,
dives into her businesses.
right.
So I'm also smart enough to understand there's some things I should be doing that will take the pressure off of her so she can do what she needs to do with
Right.
her businesses and life
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Because she needs some to do some personal things for her mindset in the morning that maybe I don't have to do all the time.
Yeah.
So we've gotten the routine. I literally get up, water. I actually do the kids' lunches every
Mm,
day. I clean up the kitchen, do the dishes, do that kind of stuff. I let her do the stuff in the morning that she needs to do in the basement. And then once I kind of get the kids out the door, make them breakfast, and they're out the door, and she'll come up and join us for that and all that stuff. Um, then I worry about my personal health. Not worry,
yeah.
but I'll do my walk. I'll usually do an afternoon weight workout.
Yeah.
But I walk every day without it. Walking is just like
Yeah.
so underrated for a bunch of different reasons. Um, but yeah, that's really what I
I
try
love
to
it.
do is from a structured point. And again, it's like we're a team,
Yeah.
and it's as long as the wheels keep turning. And I think it's important to be like, I think self-awareness is a critical skill for all of us. And I'm aware of what I'm good at. I'm aware of what I'm not good at. And
Mm,
just like she is, and we try to really fill the gaps in for each
yeah.
other
Yep.
on that and talk about it. And it's like I've been asked this question before too. Like, actually, one of my buddies in BC, because he knows what I've been doing, and he works for the government. He's like, he's same question. He's like, how did you, he goes, I would be scared. How did you know what to do as an entrepreneur? And I'm like, I didn't, I just did. And I learned, and you just
Right.
go and you just make a decision and you learn from it. And I said, but he said, what are you really good at in entrepreneurship? I said, well, I said, I don't know if it's as important. I know what I'm good at, which I think I'm good with people. Like
Yeah.
I can relate to a lot of different people. Um, I understand the business from a technical standpoint, different businesses and how things operate and email lists. And, I understand that stuff. But I think more importantly, I understand what I'm not good at.
Yeah. Which is
And
important.
I have enough self-awareness to know what my weaknesses are. And we're at a stage in our businesses now where if I can find someone who does something that needs to get done, and they're just way better at it than I am, I'm going to hire them to do that because I
Yeah.
want that standard of excellence that I can't provide in that category.
Exactly.
I'm going to hire someone who's amazing at it to do that. And I'm okay. My ego is small enough. I don't have this ego where I need to
Do it.
micromanage everyone. And no,
Yeah.
that's my strength is I find people who are amazing at it and love that aspect,
Mm,
but come do this. And then we work with them. Right. And
I
I
love
think
it.
that's a big one, I think, with entrepreneurship.
No, I love it. And I think back to the original question, I think you answered it. Like you're able to self audit. You're able to, I mean, there is a routine. You're able to self audit things you can do. You're able to recognize your spouse, what she needs. You do the things to be a team, and then you do your things to take care of you. And that's the magic. Like that's the structure. I think so many people, it's just we wake up, what do we got to do? What do you got? And it's just mayhem all the time. But
Yes.
you give her space, then you do your thing and you have your space and you work together. And that's just absolutely, I absolutely love it. So thank you for sharing that. So Jamie, before I have like the last couple questions to close out, people that, one is I want you to share a little bit about the podcast that you have, so
Mm.
people can find it, and then where people can find you in general if they want to connect with you. And then I'd really love to just ask you the last couple closing questions, but talk a little bit about your podcast and where people can find you.
Yeah, so Kim and I have a podcast. We do it weekly, or we try to do it weekly. Um, it's called Fitz Life Unfiltered. Yeah, it's on Apple and Google and Spotify and all that good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, and we just honestly we share a lot about life, business, marriage, typical things. We try to find a lot of humor in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know what? It's a real way for Kim and I to kind of just speak freely about things and share our struggles with people and what we go through, and hopefully people can relate. And we actually talked about a lot of stuff you and I talked about.
Yeah.
Um, and there's something very cathartic about sitting across from your spouse in a room for an hour and just like, because
Yeah.
how often does that happen, right? Like
Well,
you said.
I'm trying to schedule 15 minutes later, so that actually is a good. Let's get a podcast,
There
babe.
you go.
That's
That's that.
great.
Honestly, it's like it's been really cathartic for us to just talk for an hour, and just stare at each other, and it's gotten feisty a few times too, because
Yeah.
it's real, and we want it to be raw, and not we're
Mm,
not trying to make everything so perfect. It's not like that at all. I swear a little bit too much, but it's so that's that. And then I'm on Instagram.
yeah.
Jamie Fitzpatrick Entrepreneur,
Yes.
and yeah, Kim's on there too, Kim Fitzpatrick. But yeah, that's what we're doing, and we're just keeping
I love it.
busy, and yeah, teenagers.
Absolutely. And I will put everybody in the show notes, Jamie's social media and his podcast
Perfect.
links, so you guys can get it there. So, Jamie, to close it out, last couple questions. So, what do you say to somebody that maybe is stuck in their life right now? Maybe whether it's health and wellness, where maybe it's income, like they just know they need to improve. What's the one thing you would say somebody, I want to get started, it's time, like where should they focus first? What would you do and talk to that person that feels stuck?
Um, I'm, I think there's a few different categories of being stuck, because some people probably feel stuck in certain parts of their life, but I'm a big energy guy, so I think if your energy is off, you're going to have trouble doing anything.
Mm,
And I know for me, speaking from personal experience, my energy comes from wellness, and
yeah.
and I know it's a broken record, but I have to take care of myself.
Mm,
And it's amazing when you start to take care of yourself and you start to physically feel better. Even just a walk. You don't have to start a workout program, everybody. You don't have to, don't overcomplicate this if you're feeling
right.
like you haven't done anything for so long, right?
Yeah.
Start with a frickin' walk,
Yeah.
and grab a thing of water.
Mm,
Um, and I know for me, I start to physically feel better. I start to mentally feel better, spiritually feel better. My energy goes up. My energy becomes more positive.
mm,
I get confidence,
mm.
whether I'm not even talking about how you look, although that is a factor.
It is.
We all know you've lost 10, 20 pounds before, how you feel. You feel better in a
Right.
bunch of different aspects than you did before. Now, whether that's ego or your energy, I'll let you decide that. But like for me, if you're stuck, this is the crazy. I'll just share this. I'll see a super successful, let's say a realtor, who's
Hmm.
making $1 million a year
Right.
and is in the worst physical
Yeah.
condition. And I'm like, that's amazing you actually got there.
Right.
Imagine how much better you do
Right.
if you took care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because I do think it's an indicator of excellence, and that you can,
It is.
so from that, if you're feeling stuck generally, I would start there. If that's something
Mm,
you're not doing, man, that's an easy way to get that energy flowing, and just like creatively too, right? Intellectually, all that
yeah.
stuff. Entrepreneurship wise, if you're feeling stuck, like you want to try something, man, it's a little bit of courage. It's a little bit of
Yeah.
grit. It's a little bit of trial and error. Like I actually, I just did a solo podcast on this 2 weeks ago. It's like, you're scared, do it anyway. You're not sure, do it anyway. You you
Yeah.
you don't have the wherewithal right now, do it anyway. I like that.
Yeah.
You just have to start.
You're right. And if you take care of the health and wellness, you'll be probably have more courage to be in the mindset to do it anyway.
Oh,
So
of
it really goes back.
course.
That's so, it's just start where you are, right? Don't try to be Jamie Fitzpatrick at his level of fitness, or be like anyone, just wherever you are, be better than yesterday and start. And I think it will carry over to all areas. So I love that answer, because I agree with that answer. Jamie, with all the experiences you've been through, the ups and downs, the business, the health, the wellness, like what do you think is one of the most important lessons that you've learned in your life up to this point? If you were to share something, if you were to reflect looking back.
Oh man, I'm gonna sound like I don't know what this is gonna come across, but I think I think we're all interconnected. I'm not going to get too woo on you or anything like that, but I think we're all connected in some way. Um, I think it's I think it's really easy to be kind to people.
Mm, Yep.
I think that's a missing ingredient for a lot of people in all aspects. I don't think you have to be this brutal boss to be good at whatever or entrepreneurship. And I know there's some sharks and cutthroat people out there who run their business that way and have found quote unquote success. I'd argue they may not be successful in their personal life though, or in their relationships,
Right.
but because I think success has to paint that brush across all of the things to be successful. Money
Yeah.
isn't the indicator. Um, I'd say my greatest joy, and I'm not the nicest guy in the world, and I can actually, I can be like a situational extrovert if you want me to be. I can be the quietest guy in the room or the loudest if you want me to be. But I think being kind to people is so
Mm.
important. I really do.
And we need
And it
more
doesn't,
of it.
yeah, and you don't have to like, and I don't know what the word, even like saying being kind, I don't know if that's the right word. I think I think in today's day and age, and things are really hard for people. Maybe they always have been hard. We just have social media now telling us how hard everything is too.
Right.
I just think people need some love, and they need
Ah,
some grace, and they need someone that they know or even don't know to come over and say, "Hey, you're doing okay. Like things
yeah.
are okay, and you're a good human being."
Yeah.
And I try to compliment people now that I don't know, like even
Right.
in the gym. Um, I actually went up and is going to sound a little weird, but like I went up to this girl. She was probably like 20 years old and she was working so hard in the gym. And the first thing, of course, I say to her, because nowadays, whoa, you can't say anything to anybody, right? This is what I said. This is what I said to her. I said, A, I'm old enough to be your father. B, I'm happily married to a beautiful, no, this is how I opened the conversation.
Right.
I'm
Right.
happily
Right.
married to a beautiful woman. So I said, but I said, you are so strong at 20. I said, you're the way you're working out is, I told her, I said, that's going to serve you so well in your life. And she kind of at first was a little bit. And
Yeah.
then she's like,
Yeah.
oh, once she knew I
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Hitting on.
she was like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, no problem. And I try to find those moments. I
Yes.
always say like we're always so used to catching people doing the wrong thing. Try to catch people
Mm.
doing the right thing.
Yeah. And
Catch them doing the
reward
right
them and
thing.
give them that compliment.
Maybe, yeah.
We need more kindness. We need more love, and people are hurting, there are people that are hurting more people than not, and they're not willing to really open up. And that one little smile of holding the door open for somebody could be
Oh,
something that just kind of jars them because you don't know what people are going through. So I love that. More kindness, more love. That's great. Jamie, do you have a favorite book that in all the books that you've read that you always
oh man.
sometimes go back to? Or a favorite author for the audience if people like want to get started? Like I always say, my favorite author to this day has always been John Maxwell.
I was
Um,
just gonna say his name.
were you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like Dave Ramsey a lot.
Yes.
I like Maxwell's great. I do like Brendan
Yes.
Bouchard's stuff. I mean, there's
Yes.
so many, like
There's so
I'm
many.
actually, on my walks, I'm listening to Goggins again.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just I like to mix it up. But you know what? I even love Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I found that
I
book
have not.
fascinating.
I've heard that's good. I have not. That's one. Everything else you said, I have not read that.
Yeah, it's good.
It's
It's
good.
good. It's yeah, like I remember I'm listening to an Audible and I remember I think I was actually going for a run and it got to the moment in the book where he gets his first big acting role and I stopped and I was cheering for him because the way he tells the story, like
All right.
it's so cool. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna do it. I mean, my first book I read was Compound Effect, Darren Hardy, and that kind of
Amazing.
opened my eyes to I think the entrance to personal growth, and
Yes.
that's
Slight edge.
Slight Edge, Jeff
Yeah.
Wilson. So it's another.
Yeah.
There's so many, so many.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question is if you were to, this was your last day, how would you want to be remembered?
Woo. You trying to make me cry. How would I want to be remembered? Man. Oh, that's a stumper. How would I want to be remembered? I mean, I think just like a productive member of
Mm,
society, and I hope I've had an impact on people, a positive one. Um,
sure.
and I think at the end of the day, I really just want my kids and my family to be proud of me,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, because I think if I accomplish that, then I've done some of the right work in between,
Mm,
you
absolutely
know.
love it. Absolutely.
So yeah, I think just providing a good, a mentorship father, and just really doing the right things for them as best as I can. I hope
I
that's
love
how
it.
I'm
Love
remembered.
it.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie, I want to just like close out and say I respect and honor you for what you have done and accomplished, whether through the business that we've done together, watching you as a leader, as a dad, what you've done with your kids, seeing your two kids, the impact you made on your wife and the team that you guys have, and now seeing her, thrive, because it's not just her, it's both of you. And
Mm,
you've done it, and that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you, and getting the CEO award in our
mm,
company. And I always say this, iron sharpens iron, and you've accomplished so much. You're somebody that I wish was my neighbor, somebody that I
yeah.
want in
Yeah.
my inner
Me
circle,
too.
right, Jamie? But I have to like honor and recognize what you have done and continue to do. And it's absolutely amazing. And thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It means a lot. And thank you again. And I appreciate all you do. And for the listeners, please share this episode, leave comments, find Jamie, go listen to his podcast, find his wife. She's another person brilliant you can learn from. The both of them, they are a power couple, and you can learn so much. So Jamie, thank you so much. And everybody, we will talk to you soon.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
you, David. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Personal Perseverance Project. My goal every single day is to help people live up to their fullest potential. So please share this episode, subscribe to my channel, and maybe even leave a review. Be sure to connect and follow me on all my social media channels. And if you would like more information about me potentially being a keynote speaker at your event, or maybe you want to work with me one-on-one as your private coach, be sure to go to my website at davidatkinsspeaks.com for more information. Thank you.